The gang that started on a soccer field and ended up taking over City Hall, two officers from the Los Angeles Police Department approach a vehicle without license plates. Officer Matthew Pavella, only 26 years old, steps out of his patrol car for what should be a routine traffic stop. It's 1:30 a.m. on November 15, 2003. The streets of North Hollywood are eerily quiet. 11 gunshots tear through the night. The sound echoes off empty buildings like thunder from hell. Officer Pavella is fatally wounded, and his partner Campbell suffers life-changing injuries that leave him permanently disabled. The next morning, Mayor Stacy Murphy stands before a crowd of reporters and grieving citizens. Her voice trembles with what appears to be genuine outrage as she declares, "We will not rest until these cop killers are brought to justice. Our officers risk their lives every day to protect this community, and we owe them nothing less than our complete support." But here's what the public didn't know. Here's the truth that would freeze your blood. That very night, while Mayor Murphy publicly demanded justice for Officer Pavella's killers, while she played the role of a grieving community leader, she was purchasing cocaine from the same gang responsible for his murder. The same criminals she condemned during the day were her business partners at night. Her home was a drug den filled with narcotics and loaded weapons, within reach of her 12-year-old son. The mayor who swore to protect and serve was actually trafficking and using drugs. The woman demanding justice was actively participating in the criminal organization that had just assassinated a police officer. This is the story of the Vineland Boys, teenage soccer players who became one of Los Angeles' most feared gangs. A gang so ruthless they targeted law enforcement without hesitation, so sophisticated they corrupted elected officials at the highest levels. So dangerous that the Mexican Mafia placed a death sentence on every member. It all began here, on a soccer field in North Hollywood, with two brothers who made a decision that would change everything. It was 1988. Ronald Reagan was finishing his presidency. The Berlin Wall still divided Germany. The Olympics were in Seoul, and in North Hollywood, two teenage brothers were about to make a choice that would stain the streets of Los Angeles with blood for decades. 15-year-old Teddy Lopez had a nickname that would soon haunt the city: Green Eyes. Those piercing green eyes that seemed to see through you, that showed no mercy, no remorse. His brother Hilario stood beside him on that soccer field, a field on Vineland Avenue, a patch of grass that would give birth to one of the most notorious criminal organizations in California history. This wasn't just any field, it was their territory, their home, their identity. These brothers had grown up here, played here, dreamed here, but their dreams were about to become everyone else's nightmare. Teddy and Hilario had a problem. They were members of 18th Street, one of the world's largest gangs, with over 30,000 members scattered across Los Angeles. 30,000 armed and dangerous criminals, and in that enormous army, they were nobody, just two more faces in an endless sea of violence and territorial warfare. But these weren't ordinary teenagers content to follow orders and wait their turn. They had ambition, they had vision, and they had something far more dangerous. They had nothing to lose, so they made a choice that would change everything. They called it set jumping, the ultimate betrayal in gang culture. Abandoning their original gang to start something new, something that would be theirs and theirs alone. They gathered their closest friends from the neighborhood, kids they had grown up with, played soccer with, gone to school with, children who trusted them enough to follow them into hell itself. They named themselves after that soccer field where they spent their youth, the Vineland Boys. It sounded innocent enough, almost wholesome, like a little league baseball team or a local church youth group. What happened next was inevitable and brutal. Just weeks after forming their new gang, blood was spilled. Carlos Cardoza became their first victim during a robbery gone terribly wrong. Teddy Lopez, still a teenager with his whole life ahead of him, had committed murder. The innocent kid who played soccer after school was now a killer. But if you think that was rock bottom, you're dead wrong. The Vineland Boys were just getting started. In June 1988, just months after their formation, the Vineland Boys did something that would mark them forever in the annals of criminal history. They took the life of a police officer. Officer James Byer, 24 years old, had graduated from the police academy just 3 months earlier. A young man who dedicated his life to serving and protecting his community. His life was cut short by teenagers who thought they were untouchable, who believed they could challenge the entire system and win. Here's what Teddy and Hilario didn't understand about gang culture, about the unwritten laws that govern the criminal underworld. There are rules, ancient codes that have been passed down through generations of convicts in prison yards and street corners across California. These aren't suggestions or guidelines. They are sacred laws written in blood. And when you break those rules, when you violate the established order, there are consequences that make your worst nightmares seem like pleasant dreams. The Vineland Boys had just violated every sacred law of the criminal hierarchy. They had disrespected the wrong people, crossed the wrong lines, spilled the wrong blood. They had committed the ultimate sin in gang culture. They acted without permission from their superiors. The Mexican Mafia, the most powerful prison gang in California with tentacles extending to every neighborhood, every jail, every corner of the criminal underworld, issued what's called a green light. Not a traffic signal, but a death sentence. A kill-on-sight order that meant any member of any gang could assassinate any Vineland boy without fear of retaliation. Not just against Teddy, not just against Hilario, but against every member of the Vineland Boys. Men, women, teenagers, it didn't matter. The Mexican Mafia had spoken, and their word was law. This should have been the end of their story. A cautionary tale about children who flew too close to the sun and got burned. The gang should have dissolved overnight. Members should have fled the state, changed their names, and disappeared into witness protection. The Vineland Boys should have become nothing more than a footnote in LAPD crime statistics. Instead, something extraordinary happened. Something that defied every rule of gang warfare and criminal survival. They grew stronger. Imagine this. You're a teenage gang member with a death sentence hanging over your head. The most feared prison organization in California wants you dead. Every gang in the city has permission to kill you on sight. Logic says you disappear, you run, you hide, and you pray they forget about you. The Vineland Boys did the exact opposite. Despite having a green light, a death order from the Mexican Mafia, their membership exploded like cancer, spreading across the San Fernando Valley. From a handful of teenagers on a soccer field to 300 hardened criminals, 300 soldiers with nothing to lose and everything to prove. You see, that death sentence did something unexpected. It created a brotherhood of the damned. Men who knew they were already dead, who lived each day like it was their last, who had absolutely no fear because they had already accepted their fate. Their territory expanded like a malignant tumor across the valley. From Sun Valley in the north, where working-class families tried to raise their children in peace, to Sherman Oaks in the south, where Hollywood executives lived in gated communities believing they were safe from street violence. But their heart, their command center, their throne room was Lanza Boulevard, a stretch of asphalt that would become synonymous with violence, drugs, and death. Drive down that street today and residents will still cross themselves and whisper prayers. Most gangs are content with street-level drug dealing. Some crack rock sold on corners. Some marijuana passed between friends. Maybe pills stolen from medicine cabinets. Small operations that barely pay the electric bills. But the Vineland Boys were thinking bigger, much bigger. They weren't just selling drugs. They were building a criminal empire that would make the Sicilian Mafia jealous. Federal indictments revealed 315 pounds of marijuana. Court documents showed enough methamphetamine to supply half the valley for months. According to DEA reports, heroin so pure it was killing users faster than they could find new customers. We're talking millions of dollars in narcotics flowing through their organization every month. But here's the genius, the innovation that set them apart from every other street gang in Los Angeles. They weren't just dealers, they were tax collectors, criminal entrepreneurs who understood that the real money wasn't in selling drugs, it was in controlling who else could sell them. Federal prosecutors documented that every independent dealer in their territory paid tribute. Court records show $300 per transaction. You wanted to sell drugs in Vineland Boys territory, you paid the tax. You wanted to operate a gambling house, you paid the tax. You wanted to run prostitutes, you paid the tax. And if you didn't pay, well, let's just say the consequences were permanent and usually involved a closed casket funeral. But drugs and extortion were just the beginning of their criminal evolution. While other gangs fought over corners like dogs scrapping for crumbs, the Vineland Boys were creating international connections that would make seasoned DEA agents break into cold sweats. The Armenian Power, one of the most sophisticated organized crime groups on the West Coast with connections reaching back to the former Soviet Union. The Vineland Boys partnered with them for weapons acquisition, not Saturday night specials or guns stolen from pawn shops. We're talking military-grade hardware. Then came the Israelis, the Abigail crime family, an organization so well-connected they could move merchandise across 3 continents without breaking a sweat or triggering any international law enforcement attention. Federal evidence revealed 400,000 ecstasy pills in a single shipment. According to court documents, $5 million moved in one transaction that took less time than ordering coffee at Starbucks. The Vineland Boys weren't just buying drugs anymore. They were importing them in shipping containers, moving product that would make Pablo Escobar proud. When the Sinaloa Cartel, the most powerful drug trafficking organization in the world, needed reliable partners in Los Angeles, guess who they called? Not the established Mexican gangs with decades of experience, not the prison-linked organizations with thousands of members. They called the Vineland Boys, the condemned teenagers who had somehow built the most efficient criminal operation in Southern California, and the most chilling service they provided wasn't drugs or weapons or extortion, it was death itself. The Vineland Boys had become assassins for hire, professional executioners who solved problems for the right price.